So today in this beginner series for Final Cut Pro X version 10.3, we're going to have a look at doing multicam edits. And I'm going to show you two different ways to do those. So just coming over here to my demo library, I'm going to generate a new event. Let's work with our aerial footage one final time, but we're going to do have two separate projects for this. So I'm going to have aerial and multicam. So now this is what we're working with. Just leave our create a new project, but leaving it on our automatic settings. So we have our aerial multicam one here, and I'm going to make sure that I have two projects within this. So multicam 1, and change the name of this one, multicam 2. Lovely. Cool. So let's import our aerial footage one more time. So I'm going to go to my hard drive, go in here, find our aerial footage. We're not going to worry about the interview for the moment, but we do want our 3 Multicam Angles and the original audio for this. We don't want to copy to the library, we're going to leave my files in place, and I'm going to import selected. So I've now got my 3 visual angles. So all of these 3, it's the same performance done from 3 different angles, just recorded at the same time. So the first version I'm going to show you for the multicam is just by layering the edits. So what you generally want to do most of the time is to have your master angle, so the shot that captures everything fully, as your base layer. So I'm going to take this, I'm just going to add it to the timeline, either just using E or you can drag and drop it. And I'm going to Shift Z to bring the entire footage, just here, Shift Z to bring the whole project to fit the screen so we can see it really clearly how that's going to work. And what you can do is use the audio waves, so we can actually use our viewer to increase the size a little bit, maybe the view, and we're going to visually layer the performance with the audio waves. So the next layer up that I'm going to use is this one because it's our kind of mid layer. So I'm going to drag this and I'm going to drop it and I'm going to place it above this line. So you can start to see already how this is our applause at the end here with our clapping. I think there's some more clapping actually in this angle here, and you can see where the audio track begins. So we're just layering them quite proximately at the moment. Same thing with our close-ups. We're going to put this on the next line up. So we're going to drag this over. So we're looking for a point, like, so a good kind of point where you can sort of see that we can use. So there's a nice little dip here. So I tend to look for either peaks or drops. So let's just zoom in, Command+, we're going to zoom in quite finely. So you can see actually as you zoom in that's not quite as clear as it was. The start point is pretty clear, so you can see, and we want to layer it on our base layer. And I'm going to zoom quite far in. So I'm going to use my base layer, and I might even add a marker to this. So if I click onto my base layer and hit the letter, align this point here, and click the letter M, that creates a little marker. Actually it moved over a frame, which I don't want it to. Let's try that again, see if it... Okay, let's be there. So roughly it'll work anyway. So then I'm going to take my full one here, I'm going to move this over. Again, just trying to kind of align these images together, dragging this one over. I'm trying to find this nice point. I'm going to take off this marker actually because it's just gone one frame over. I won't allow this to be quite as applicable. So let's just put that in. It's a bit there, right there. And if I zoom out, now this might sound pretty crazy. I can see already that these are pretty loud, so I'm going to use Control minus and then Control minus on these just to lower the volume a little, just so it's not going to be quite so peaky. And I'm going to play it. So you can hear. Disconnect. So it's not bad. Let's try around a bit the drums. That's pretty good actually, that's pretty well aligned, so you can see that those points are there. So now we've got our three visual layers. In addition to this, we have the source track that we use for the video. So let's drag this one under. This is the track without any edits. I know this bit at the beginning isn't part of it, it's not included. I'm pretty sure it came from this area here. Yep, so we're starting to get into our... You can even have this first drum peak. It's our audio, be around a bit there. Yeah, getting there. Although that's a little further over actually, so it might be that that's, here's the first drum pick here. So it should be there. Just getting closer. There we go. So let's zoom in again. Go right back here. Find our point and drag that over just a little. Let's play this now and see how this is sounding, especially around about the drums. Okay, so that's pretty good. We are getting there. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to drop the volume down a little bit on all of these. So once we're kind of fairly sure that our sound is matching up, let's just have a look here. I'm going to V this because I have a feeling that this audio is actually edited, so you can see that the original source track is not aligning as precisely these audio waves here. So this is actually an edit of the music itself. So I believe it was around this point that it was broken. I think it's around here-ish. Let's just work on that, bring this in. So it doesn't quite look right. I might try around a bit these sound waves. That looks better. Already I can see that looks better, so let's have a wee listen. I'm going to V all of these for the moment. The V is just visible, so I'm making them all invisible by hitting V. And we'll have a listen to these audio waves. So you can see that's where that needs to happen. It's around about this peak here. Let's have a listen there. Not great. Let's have a listen one more time. That's pretty good. And it's pretty well aligned with these peaks. Let's have a listen to this and see how this now sounds. And then there's an applause, which happens there quite nicely. So I'm going to shift at that moment. So that's our edit here. If you want to make sure that these are contained, you can create a new timeline with these. If I highlight the two together, or use Command, select the two, right click with your mouse or hit Control click to open up our second menu. And we're going to do this option here, which is our Command G is also the shortcut, create storyline. What that does here is it creates a storyline of the music, and so it keeps it kind of quite solid. So I'm just going to V these so that these angles are all active again. Now, on the whole, we generally don't want to use the audio from all three angles. Most of the time you'll probably use one, but maybe two. I use two quite a lot sometimes when I want to get a little bit more from the source audio, so it's nice and crisp, but you still want a little bit of the movement from the room. You want to kind of get the sound of the the feet against the floor, or you want to get the audience reactions to the imagery. So I'm only going to use one, and I'm going to use my master angle because I know that's taken from the front with quite a decent enough mic. So I'm going to take the volume of these two and I'm going to drop them right down. Now if I just play this here, so that's not bad, and I'm fairly sure there's a few moments again where people were kind of, even here might have been one more. Yeah, so you're getting the applause from the audience. So you can kind of use this again to sort of create a little bit of an audio mix. I'm going to bring this down a little bit, so I just want a bit of audience reaction. But I don't want it to be so intrusive, or I might just choose to lift these levels up a little bit while I'm doing that. Maybe take it to sort of 10, so it's got enough, because the music was quite powerful in the moment, so it was the primary the primary source, and then you want this nice applause that you have at the end here. So if I shift Z to bring it all onto the screen, so I have now obviously my three angles. We have our base layer that's functioning along the primary timeline here. I've got my additional audio source underneath, and I've got my two other visual angles which are currently on top. Now because all of these are full opacity or opacity, it's showing what's on top first. So it's showing just the close-ups, despite the fact that we know that all of these layers are playing at the same time. So the way to work with that then, there's a couple of different ways. They're fairly similar. Decide, you know, kind of what you want your angles to do, just by using the blades tool. So you hit the letter B. So choosing which angles you want to do. So the two tools I'll use most of the time during this and this type of edit is the blade tool and V. So the blade tool is going to cut moments out, and then the V tool is going to enable and disable particular clips. So I might decide that I want my first opening clip. This is quite a nice shot actually, just of that swinging, but this isn't so great. So I kind of decide I like it here, but maybe not before that. So if I do a little blade here, go back to my A, use the letter A to go back to the selection tool and delete that. Let's have a look at one of these other angles and see if it's any better. That's interesting. But I might even decide actually that I want it to start in black. I want it to kind of start in nothingness. Or just come up to this moment. This is quite nice actually. Let's pull that in. So I might start here, opening up to the scene with this little, coming to a close-up detail. Maybe musically you want it to be slightly earlier. Let's listen to it. Yeah, that's not too bad. Kind of get in there. So then you can kind of just start to use the blade tool to sort of have a look at what the action at what's going on. So I'm just going to make a few approximate cuts to begin with. I'm going to use the blade tool here, and use the blade tool here. And when I'm cutting it, I'm going to give myself a couple of options in each layer. I'm not going to cut this too much, because we kind of want for one thing, we want our base audio to reside. Although you could, if you really wanted to cut out this angle too and drop everything into the same layer, you could control select and detach audio. So you'd have your two audio sources sort of residing down at the bottom, and then you could actually allow all of these separate sections to drop down onto the primary storyline and use things like transitions between them, which we can have a look at. So by doing this, I'm just going to take some of these moments in between, and I'm going to use the V. So I'm going to take this moment and I'm going to use V here, maybe V here, and let's be this one as well. So let's just have a wee look at this. This is going to be extremely approximate and actually possibly slightly too long. Let's just have a little watch as to how this is looking. I'll close my inspector momentarily so we have a slightly bigger screen. There we go. Move it starting a little late. You can see already this first cut. We probably want to bring this in a little. So when you're working on the top layer, it's a little different. It doesn't have the same magnetic storylines unless you generate them with transitions. So you can either just click and drag, or you can use the position tool to drag these around. What I wouldn't advise though is actually moving the clips. If you move the clip at all, it's going to be out of sync with the rest of it. If you use the position tool or just drag the ends in, then you're going to have a different option available to you. So let's just bring this in. I think you can kind of see there's a moment where we wanted it to cut. And then might use this to cut to another angle. Let's bring this one back into play. Okay. Bring it maybe slightly more in. And we start to kind of having a play in us that there is a sort of organic kind of sense of timing for a lot of these things. So let's just watch that one more time. So from here. So we're starting to kind of create a little bit of a multicam edit, so it's extremely approximate. If you wanted to, like I said, you can kind of just play around with these as they are. Once you can use the V tool as well to watch, okay, what am I missing? What other options are there? If you delete them immediately, you don't have those options available too. You can see here, there's a nice moment actually that we missed. of him emerging from the dark. So maybe you might want to blade this, do this one here. Oh, that one. We want to keep this one active and disable this one. So you see you have other options available too, maybe that you wouldn't have recognized were there. So that's where sometimes kind of the V's and the blades can be quite useful. Once you've got your final edit and you're sure about it and you're absolutely decided this is the way you want it to be, you could decide to get rid of the ones that you're not using. If you have detached this audio here, you could blade out these moments. You could use the position tool to drop these onto the timeline. Use the blade tool here. We don't need this one, it's not seen. Bring this one onto, undo. Position onto the timeline. So you have these options kind of available to you, and you could literally just get rid of them all and have them playing one by one. So cut between angles, and that then gives you the option of using things like your transitions between shots, cross dissolve, directional. You might not want to use, but they're there anyway. You have those options available too. And you can also, the fact that you have all of those layers of audio mixed in means you can kind of work with an audio mix essentially of what was playing live. So that's your sort of version 1 of how to do multicams. Now there is another way of doing them which is very, very simple and very, very effective. And works in a very similar way. So let's go to our new project. So do Multicam 2. So what you do here is you take all of the angles that you need. So we're going to take this angle, this one, this one, and this one. So you can either use the command key to highlight them all like I just did here, or you can click and drag. Oh, that's not getting there. There you go, all of these options. From here, you either right click with the mouse or hit Control Select. And you're going to do this option here, which is New Multicam Clip. So if you click on this option, so multicam name, Arial, cannot spell it today. Now, a lot of this information is obviously quite in depth. Don't worry too much about it. Use audio for synchronization is particularly useful. It does essentially what we just did visually, but it does it, it calculates it all for you. We want our start time code at 0. That's how we've kind of calculated it. Angle assembly, automatic. Again, it's very, very intelligent. There's some areas where you might want to work with things like giving your this is where things like your metadata starts becoming useful. You can do things like giving the camera a name so it doesn't put every shot on different angles, those kind of things. But for now, automatic is pretty useful. So we're going to keep audio for synchronization. We're going to keep all this automatic. I know that this is the yes, who use automatic settings. It's absolutely grand. I know that this is the resolution. We've got it filmed in 1080p. My frame rate is 25p, and this is all good. So we're just going to click OK, and it's going to take, well, that was particularly quick to analyze, and it's created this clip here. So this just looks like a normal clip, and if you drag it on and drop it, undo, just drag it. That's because we had our position tool active. Drag it and drop it on the timeline, undo Shift Z. We have the length of the piece. Now it looks at the moment like it is just one angle, but it is not. It includes all of our angles, and there's two ways of seeing these. One is to double click, go back to our letter A here, and to double click on our aerial multicam, and this lovely thing pops up, which is essentially what we had created. Now obviously it hasn't given us our edit that we did at the end, so we'll have a look at that. But we have all of these angles have been generated, and it's synced it up perfectly with our audio. So let's just quickly actually go down. Now within this multicam edit, you can make adjustments. You can move things around if you need to, and you can do, so I'm going to do this cut that I had, and where is it? The end of the audio, scrolling right along, because we know that our Control minus, take that volume down. So around about here, I think I need to blade it. And then, so that's our applause. It's around here. I think that this portion needs to come in. Using the position tool to bring it in. So we listen again after all of our little little detailed edits. Let's see how that sounds. We're going to listen to the audio angle here by playing. That's almost there, it's not bad at all. Position tool over, and this eye, oh, so close, so very close. Back over. That's pretty good, we'll work with that. And we can see there, our lines are aligned there. So, back onto the timeline. So what we have here is we've got an active audio angle and an active visual angle in each portion here. And you can also use this multicam. It's a bit like a compound clip but with different angles. And if you want to make an adjustment to the color, it's going to apply it to every clip that will exist within the multicam just by applying it here. So I'm going to just go back here. And I'm also going to take the volume down. Oh, sorry. Just a little. What you need to do is go up here to the top left hand corner where it says view and click down, and we're going to go to the second option here where it says show angles. We're going to click on this here. I'm going to pull this over so we have a little bit more space to view, and what we can see now is that the multicam, every angle that's playing simultaneously is now being shown. So if I play this, I'm going to take this volume down a little bit because it is quite squishy. So you can see what's happening during every single shot. You can kind of scroll through, and it really is very, very useful in helping you to determine what cut you want to make and when. Now up here, currently our active angle is our close-ups. We don't want it to be our close-ups to begin with. We want the first angle to be, for now, just to be the full angle. Although I have to say this is actually quite a beautiful angle. Maybe I'll use actually the aerial full as our original angle. Now in order to get this to change for the entire clip, there's two ways of doing that. One is to control click on the clip itself and to change the active video angle to aerial full. That will change the entire clip, has been selected and highlighted in yellow, to that angle. Another way of doing it is to hold the option key. So as I hover over here, you can see there's a blade. We're going to work on this for a moment. If I hold the option key, it changes back to a selector, and what that does is it changes the angle. So if I hold the option key and click, it's going to change the whole clip. Have a look down here and sort of see, and you can see it in the window there. Holding the option changes it. The blade puts a cut into that point and changes angles. This one changes the entire shot. Now, what the only thing with the multicam is that it only allows you to choose one audio angle. So you can't have the same kind of mixing possibilities that exist with the other option. So I'm going to choose, just for the moment, just this track. It's particularly good for music videos where you already have the audio track recorded. So I'm going to choose my active. Sorry, can't say that there. Just recognizing up here, we have three options for cutting just before I switch. This one here is cutting both the audio and the video at the same time. This one is just switching the video, this one is just switching the audio. Now for this particular option, I just want to cut the audio, so I'm just going to click on this option. So all I want to do here is just to take this, and I want to change the audio angle, because you can have separate, you can have audio playing from one and video playing from the other, and you can see that quite clearly here. This is the active audio angle, this is the active video angle, which is kind of what we want for the beginning. I want this one to be my first opening, I want this one to be my primary audio. So if I play this now, I don't have any of my background, we don't have any of the applause at the end, it just goes straight with the track. So if you wanted to add any of your additional audio, you'd have to make different kind of choices with regards to that. I think you can actually have a totally separate multicam with a different audio action. You could just literally align the two and bring a little bit of that source audio back in again. So you can actually layer the two up, but it's quite a lot of information for it to handle. From that you could actually detach that audio. Detach there, and there you've got your multicam, but you've just got the audio from that one clip, so you can start to work with layering those in. So if I ignore that audio for the moment, let's just work with our source So what you're going to do is you're going to work out how you're going to cut it. So I actually want this only to start from here. Once you have this as a clip, it doesn't have to exist in its entirety. You can use it functions exactly the same way any other clip does. You can take it, you can duplicate it, you can blade it, you can put different sections in different places, you can duplicate it, Command C, you can take all these moments exactly the same way as any other clip does. It just so happens that each portion has all of this information in it. So from here, we're going to do a little bit of a cut. So let's start with the original, and as we watch it, we're going to start the cuts that we want to make now are going to be for our visuals. So we're going to keep this audio, it's just going to be that audio, and we're going to go up to our visuals here. So every time we make a cut up here, you don't make the cuts here in the same way, you make your cut on the shot that you want to see. So if I play this, so actually, I'm saying the first angle I want to be is actually not going to be this one. I am going to use the aerial master, so I'm going to do Option Select to change my initial shot. And I want my first cut to happen around here, and we're going to change to this angle. You can actually cut as it's playing. Back to full. To the arms, to here. So you can see the cuts happening here as I click and select on these moments here. So let's just observe that back. If I full screen it, you'll see properly without the distraction of the angles. We're starting to get a little bit of a cut. So if you decide at any moment that there's actually an angle that you're not sure about, you can use this. You can, as you sort of scan over, you can kind of choose which one you want to do. You can use the Option Select to change angles. So if I decided I wanted to change this one, I'd hold on to the Option key and switch to this one. So it doesn't do another cut. It doesn't cut that clip in half. It just changes which one you're using. Command Z to undo, which is a pretty handy function. Put this one back to fit. So you can cut your entire way through that. Once you've made a cut, if you hover over the point where you have cut, it activates one of the trimming tools, which is to decide where the start and finish point ends, which is different from actually blading. If I was to blade the angle here, go back to my select tool, and kind of, still kind of there actually, but it should not. So let's actually pull this one in. Yeah, that's just changing the point. So within the multicam, it tends to do it. There's a way position tool perhaps. Ah yes, there you go. So you can separate and you can kind of move them around. But if you have your original cut, you can actually just pull the start and stop point of where that occurs. So you can just sort of pull those points. If you're like, no, actually I want this cut to happen slightly later. Maybe this one, let's have a look. So maybe actually I want it where he has his arm. There's this arm that he just threw. Maybe I want to capture that moment from this angle. So let's just see how that happens. There we go. So you can actually decide the timing. Maybe I want to capture that pull down. You can kind of see it's looking quite nice here. So let's see if we can capture that pull down in this angle. There you go. So you're just kind of using this timing. So you're just having to play with how the cuts relate to the music. And you have this lovely reference here as to where your shots are occurring. So you could just continue the entire way through as you're watching. This is a lovely angle here. Getting a nice bit of a full action. You can tell here they're out of shot. They sort of miss, so we sort of need to make sure we're still on this angle. And you can work your excuse me. You can work your entire multicam in this way. And then it'll export in exactly the same way as any other of your edits. One thing I would suggest something, and it goes back to sort of some of the original default settings for Final Cut, and it's to do with this is where our proxy media and our optimized media can become quite useful. If you go up to the top here where it's just actually Final Cut Pro into Preferences, Now this is preference for playback. The option for, it says here, playback, create optimized media for multicam clips. Now what that means is when you create a multicam, and it's quite important because actually it can create a lot of additional footage on your hard drive, is that it creates sort of like high quality Apple ProRes versions of your footage that help to optimize its how it plays and kind of how Final Cut Pro can edit it. But it does generate a lot of additional, it uses up so much extra space on your hard drive, so you have to be really careful if you're doing lots of multicam edits that you clear out these options. So if I go up to the top where it says here, File, Delete Generated Event Files, this is how you would do that. So if you render files, all, delete optimize, delete proxy, that's if any of those files have been created, it's very important that you clear those every once in a while, otherwise especially with multicams, you can amass huge amounts of additional files. But one thing that is quite handy is because multicams, because you're having to view a number of angles, it's rendering all of these angles at the same time, and I've done music videos where I've got 16 different angles playing at once, and it can be particularly tricky. You go up to here to where it says View, click this drop down menu, and go down here to where it says Proxy. So we'll go through the process of generating proxy. So you have to click, let's go back to View, go back to Optimize. It has created Optimize though, so that's something to be mindful of. We're going to select all of these options, Command. We're going to do Control click. Transpose media. This is what we want to create. We want to create proxy media, and we're going to click OK. Now what proxy media is, as opposed to optimized media, is proxy media is a low quality version of the file that gives you just enough information that you can see what's kind of going on, but not so much information. The files aren't so massive that your hard drive of either your portable hard drive or your computer doesn't really start to struggle. But it is making copies, so it is creating additional media. And once I've done this, actually, it can take a little bit of time. So it's writing new videos based on the ones that you have already. So once this is created, you go to the View section, View Proxy, and it will allow you to edit with a lower quality version of the file. And what that does is it can really speed up your editing process. It stops it from skipping, from jumping and stuff. If your computer's slow, if your hard drive's slow and it's struggling, generating proxy media can be extremely useful. One thing to note then is that when you export, you have to make sure that you go back to your optimized or original media, because it will actually export a proxy version. So it will export a very low quality version of your file. So that's incomplete, but it's not. It's going to take a little while to work away. So that's fine. We'll have a look at that in a moment. So yeah, it's just to note, a few things to note. But I would definitely say, actually, I'm going to do this process right now, which is I'm going to delete the optimized footage, because we're not going to use that. We're going to use the proxy, but we're not going to use the optimized. And once I do that, it's going to clear a massive amount of information from the file. So those are two very different ways of doing multicam. Within each function, again, there's so many different ways of doing it, and lots of additional features to these options. But the multicam is particularly handy. It's very user friendly, and if you prefer to sort of do your own mixes and to have a look at it in the other way, you have those two options available to you. So thanks very much for watching. Hope that's helpful, and we'll see you next time.